And welcome to the latest edition of the ECTAA Travel Insights podcast. We have spoken about the Package Travel Directive before, but we looked at it more from a regulatory point of view. Now we want to get the experience of real life travel agents and tour operators, and I am delighted to be joined by Anna Lennhammer with Nordic Leisure Travel Group and Kim Butigan from Adriatic DMC. We're going to look at how the Package Travel Directive and the proposed changes affect travel agents and tour operators nowadays. Anna, Kim, thanks for joining us today. So Kim, I'd like to start with you. So I know you're with a destination management company, but I was wondering if you could give me a sense overall of the type of impact that PTD has on the sector.
Yes. So as a destination management company, we're not necessarily facing the direct impact that travel agencies are because our business operation models are slightly different. We're not selling directly to consumers. But obviously, I can talk in terms of what the impact is on the sector. The first issue that we primarily see is determining a booking is a package travel deal. And that can only actually happen based on the proposal after 72 hours has passed, which is going to require a significant amount of tracking of consumer data and information, which is intrusive potentially and has issues around privacy. And I think that the biggest challenge coming from the consumer perspective is being able to receive information from the seller that is accurate and clear about what it is they are actually purchasing, how that information is disseminated, and whether they will be clear on the fact that if they've been offered what would appear to be a package, whether it actually is at the end point if they change their mind and they only opt for one service, or equally if they end up deciding on the second add-on service later on. There's a big issue around liquidity for businesses, the cash flow around these things, particularly as many of these businesses have fixed costs throughout the year, salaries obviously, building rentals, energy, infrastructure that they have to invest in. And the limits to prepayments just don't allow for any space in that area and make assumptions that just aren't true.
So this is to do with the limitations on companies to take money in advance?
Yes, right. Yes.
And how do you think it should work? I mean, should it just be completely free? Should this be an area that is not regulated?
No, I don't believe in no regulation. That's definitely not the case. But I think it should be a fair playing field for all. So I think that consumers should be protected against insolvency when they're making individual product purchases, not just when it comes to package travel. So if you look at the statistics, I believe that 85% of travel services that are purchased within Europe aren't package travel.
Yep.
So the directive is looking to cover 15% of those transactions that take place on a yearly basis in a very heavy way that places a big burden on intermediaries and stifles the market and competition and long-term viability of those companies, which make a really meaningful contribution to the travel industry.
Anna, how does this impact your company?
I very much agree with what Kim said. Nordic Leisure Travel Group is the biggest Nordic company in tour operating. So we're selling directly to customers. We don't have the same issues in when to decide when a package is sold or not, because we only sell packages. But the administrative burdens that are put on the tour operators and travel agents with the new proposal, and also the ones that are already in place, we find it very difficult to run a good business. It's not that we don't want to protect the consumers. We definitely do, but it's so unbalanced, as Kim is saying as well. So we really see issues with the new proposals. And in regard to the prepayments, we need customers to help us with our prepayments that we need to put up to our sub-suppliers.
So, I mean, we're talking about just 15% of the market, as Kim said. Do you think that there's a risk that this part of the market will get even smaller? Are we in danger of putting package travel under threat overall?
Yes, I think we are. And I don't think that's the intention of the policymakers, because they don't really understand what package travel is and what other travel services are. They are trying to do the protection for consumers is their most wanted thing to achieve, which we also want to achieve. But with the way they are proposing the administrative burdens and the liability on package travel in comparison to other travels, it just means that it will be more expensive for everyone, including the consumer, putting them wanting to try and find less expensive travel, which are not protected. So it really doesn't work in the right way for the consumer.
Sure, but doesn't this just go back to bad experiences that have taken place in the past during COVID, or with respect to some of the big bankruptcies where, let's say, you could have a case where people are spending 100% upfront for something that they don't experience for another 6 months or 7 months. And so there's a big risk there. And isn't there a need for some limitation on that so that consumers are better protected?
Oh, I don't really agree with that, because I don't think that we as a market should be the only industry as package organisers to protect the consumer in that sense. It's far too unbalanced in comparison to other consumer protection in other areas. And I don't believe that a COVID incident, or fair enough, a very large failure from the industry, from some, it doesn't mean that we all, every time we need to go further and further. It doesn't solve the question at hand.
Yeah. Do you think that there's also a lack of awareness in Europe about the specific protections that you get as part of package travel? Because even without the kind of the new proposals that are coming down the tracks, it's still extremely protected, right?
It is, and definitely not. I don't think the tour operators are doing a good enough job to inform the consumers of their protection. And I don't think the suppliers know what we need to put up as protection as well. So it's really, we need to raise the issues and get people understand, both policymakers but also suppliers, what we need to put out there.
Kim, I see you nodding in agreement there.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think it would be remiss to have intense consumer campaigns, or more intense. I mean, I know that certainly ABTA in the UK do a good job of informing consumers about their rights and their protections. But I think that there's been a bit of a gap post-COVID where there is uncertainty amongst consumers about, well, what is covered? How am I protected if I purchase this? There's always a lot of talk about protections when you make credit card purchases and having some sort of security in that regard. But I think that the protection that is offered with package travel that does exist already is substantial and significant. And I think that this approach to the PTD is perhaps overly informed by an emotional response to the crises that have taken place in the past in the travel market, because people do place such value on their travel experiences. They spend a lot of money on travel abroad, on their family holidays, and they look forward to it all year. And so when things go wrong, it does make headline news, and people talk about it for a long time, and reputations are built and can be destroyed based on those experiences, as we all well know, which is sort of probably one of the feelings that I have as to why this feels like an overstretch.
Absolutely. So an emotional response, and that seems to translate into a political response in that politicians have the opportunity to show that they're doing something about these bad experiences that consumers have had, and therefore this becomes a very blunt approach to a more sophisticated problem.
Precisely. And I'd just like to make the point that it's not only about making the market, the sector, viable long term. You know, at an EU level, there's lots of talk about sustainable development. Green Deal, you know, is a big part of strategy. The travel industry is playing a big part in all the talk around sustainability, around the green economy. It has a huge role to play in it. We're often at the forefront of people's mind when we have those conversations. But package travel also has a huge role to play in delivering a high standard of service and a good quality experience to travellers. People receive much more than just the hotel and the accommodation or the travel experience that they have when they book that trip. They're actually investing and they're paying for a service that's involved inspection trips. It's involved endless emails and communications between colleagues at the travel agents and the destination management companies. People have visited the sites themselves, checked that things are working okay. So there's security in that sense as well is important in package travel, not just the security that consumers receive in terms of against insolvency if things go wrong. You should be able to feel that you can rely on a particular standard and quality when you're booking package travel, and I think that's what the sector also offers the market.
Yeah. Would you agree with that, Anna? There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that maybe isn't fully appreciated when it comes to putting a package travel deal together.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I also want just to make a point that we already have so much protection, both for the customers, but also as package organisers.
And this is what common insurance schemes. What type of insurance are you, or what type of assurance are you referring to here?
No, I'm thinking about what kind of protection that we put up, not only from an insolvency perspective towards the customer, but also to have everything protected, the airline, the hotel, everything. We need to make sure that these are safe. And also because if they are not safe, that will just end up being our problem in the end. So really, we really need to put very much effort into having a very good product that we offer, safe, good, which also comes with a cost.
Okay, very good. So I want to just move the discussion on. I'm going to come back briefly at the end to package travel, but we are speaking with you today, or I'm speaking with you today, because you are both ECTAA Travel Industry Ambassadors. And so that was a scheme that was put together in order to kind of tell some real life stories about the experiences of travel agents and tour operators. Is this important? Is this something that's needed to do, that's needed to be done? And what has your experience been of the program so far, Kim?
Well, I'm working in Croatia, which many people will know as a tourist destination. Around 19% of the GDP of the country comes from tourism. So from our perspective, my perspective, being able to understand policy decisions and processes that impact tourism is of big importance, not just to me as a professional in the industry, but actually to the country's economy, full stop, which was one of the reasons why the Ambassador Programme caught my eye as something that I would like to be involved with. And
so we're also looking at how to present the sector to policymakers. I'm going to ask you the same question just in a moment as well. But if you had one message to share with policymakers on PTD, what would it be?
Let's talk.
That's a good one.
Let's keep the discussion going.
Yes, Let's keep the discussion going. Let's have more in-depth discussion. There needs to be more space for in-depth discussion because it's not a simple issue. There's lots of fine-tuning that needs to be done. I know this from my colleagues at the Association of Croatian Travel Agents, who recently sent a joint letter with the Croatian Chamber of Economy to our MEP Nikolina Brnjac, who is our former Minister for Tourism, on a couple of amendments within the directive that they'd like to make. It's important that consumers are protected, but it's also important that we secure a future for this market and this sector because it's played a significant role in the development of tourism in Europe to date, and it has a role to play long term also. Okay, very good. Anna, do you think that politicians have taken an oversimplified view of package travel?
Yes, but not because they wanted to, because they don't really know better. And I think Kim is absolutely right that let's talk more. We need to make them understand what travel, the sector of package travel and travel agents is all about. Otherwise, it's a risk there that we all get bundled up in the travel industry together with suppliers as airlines, train, shipping, everything, and that's not very good for us.
Do you think that the travel industry could do more to come together to really tell this story about the value of package travel to politicians?
Yes, I think we can. because that's one of the problems I see with the PTD and the suggestions is that we're going in the wrong direction. It puts on more pressure on us as a sector, as an industry. I think we can all benefit from raising our voices and talking more about this. We shouldn't be ashamed of saying this is very, very bad in the end for the consumers, but also for the package travel industry, which is diminishing as we speak and putting consumers in another direction, not protected.
So as part of this Travel Industry Ambassador Programme, we are visiting the European Parliament today, meeting with some MEPs. Tell us a bit about what you expect and tell us a bit about overall your experience within this programme.
I was very happy to join the Ambassadors Programme because everything that comes in the travel sector and package travel comes from Brussels, from the EU. The legislation is really from here. So we are so dependent on what's going on here. When you're up in the Nordics, as I am, I work in the 4 Nordic countries where we are the biggest tour operator. However, we are dependent on what's going on here, and we are sometimes very far away. So I was intrigued by getting to know more about the day-to-day work down here in Brussels. So that's why I joined to start with. And that's also something that I expect more to learn more of today.
Anna, Kim, I think that people within the travel agents and tour operator sector should be very grateful for the work that you're doing. Thanks very much for explaining your kind of real life experiences of PTD and what you're doing in the Travel Industry Ambassador Programme. Thanks for joining us today. It was a really great conversation.
Thank you, Paul.